Last week, Peter Dutton was trying to convince Australia before the election next weekend that the Labor Party opened the floodgates to international students.
When you flood the market with 65% increase of international students, particularly into Sydney and Melbourne, you see an increase in the cost of rentals, and you also lock young Australians out of the dream of home ownership.
And in response, he wants to reduce the net overseas migration figure to 100,000 less than Labor's target of 260,000 by axing the 485 graduate skilled visa program. More about how he intends to reduce the NOM in a moment, but first a fact check. Was it really the Labor Party responsible for the flood of temporary residents? Well, to answer that, we need to go back in time to those peaceful days before COVID arrived. Prior to early 2020, when we closed our borders, the NOM was cruising around between 200,000 to 300,000, as you can see in this Australian Bureau of Statistics graph. When the borders shut, the NOM dropped off the cliff, and our PM at the time, Scott Morrison, told international students it was time to go home. So many did.
All students who come to Australia in their first year have to give a warranty that they are able to support themselves for the first 12 months of their study. These visas, and those who are in Australia under various visa arrangements, they're obviously not held here compulsorily. If they're not in a position to be able to support themselves, then there is the alternative for them to return to their home countries.
With the worst of the pandemic over, Australia fully opened its borders in February 2022. The Liberals wanted the students to flood in after the drought of temporary residents had significantly impacted our economy.
We will be rebating the visa application fees from all those who arrive today and going forward for students over the next 8 weeks. And that is a fee of some $630. And there are around 150,000 students who have visas, who we are encouraging to come back, to be there for the start of their university or college year. And that is a thank you to them for coming back and continue to choose Australia. But we also want them to come here and be able to be filling some of these critical workforce shortages, particularly those who are working and being trained in healthcare, aged care, those types of sectors. That will be incredibly helpful. And that will be for the next 8 weeks. So visa application fees rebated when you arrive in Australia, and that will be done through the Department of Home Affairs, and that will be 8 weeks from today. The second one is for backpackers, and we'll be rebating their visa application fee. And there are some 23,500 backpackers who have visas to come to Australia right now. And my message to them is, come on down. Come on down now, because you wanted to come to Australia, you've got your visa, we want you to come to Australia and enjoy a holiday here in Australia, move all the way around the country, and at the same time join our workforce and help us in our agricultural sector and our hospitality sector and so many of the other parts of the economy that rely on that labour, that workforce right now.
So with the promise of free visa fees, in they came. So as a fact check, who opened the floodgates? Well, it was your old boss, Peter, and your own party. You can see the NOM rocketed up as nearly as quickly as it fell. By the time the Labor Party came into power in May 2022, it was a rocket ship that had plenty of fuel left to go. So does the Labor Party bear some responsibility for the significant increase in the numbers and the NOM reaching the stars? Well, yes, in many ways they do. After they won power, they rolled out significant incentives for students and other temporary residents to come to Australia. They offered an easy pathway for New Zealanders to gain citizenship here, and of course they rushed in to get it. They allowed international students full-time work permission, and of course they couldn't get here fast enough for that. Longer 485 graduate visas were offered for high-fee science courses and even more extended periods for those who studied PhD courses. A great offer that many took up. Even vocational students got the 485 visa no matter what diploma course they finished. And of course, to top it all off, temporary residents got a bonus visa to stay longer because we needed them, called the Pandemic 408 visa. So we had students, working holiday makers and New Zealand citizens flooding into Australia, while the ones that were already here before, they could just stay longer on the 408. Well, that just kept fueling the NOM like Godzilla sunbaking on a beach in Fukushima, and Labour were very pleased with themselves. By February 2023, the Federal Education Minister Jason Clare looked like the cat that swallowed the canary.
And it means that students are coming back, some faster than others. In the last year, there's been a 160% jump in the number of students coming to Australia from India. 160%. Think about that.
In reality, though, all these incentives were not really necessary. During the pandemic, the whole world saw Australia was a safe place to come and live. With the borders closed, it created a dam of people who couldn't get here fast enough. So the Liberals opened the floodgates, and when the Labor Party took over, they were very happy with the rivers filling out downstream. But then they took their eye off the ball. None of them seemed to realise how long it would take to raise those floodgates once again. It was like when the High Court ordered the release of the long-term asylum seekers, and then Labor said, what do we do now? However, in a very sad period of our political history, the Labor government started acting in a way that I have never seen in my 26-year career. They started crucifying international students to gain control of the NOM. They cut those over 35 years of age from obtaining the graduate working visa. They broke their promises on the longer 485 visas for others. They refused as many student visa applications as they could without real justifications, particularly from countries they wanted less international students from, such as India, Pakistan and Nepal. And worst of all, they broke the hearts of over 7,000 visa applicants for the skilled recognised graduate visa by capping and ceasing their applications. They said, bad luck and here's your money back, even though some of them had been waiting for years already for their visa. There has been a great deal of pain caused by this Labor government towards international students, but also being blamed for the housing crisis by both of the major parties is just too much to bear. At least the Greens have consistently emphasised that migrants should never be used as scapegoats.
The damage that's done when politicians on both sides, and unfortunately, Jenny, it is both Labor and the Liberals, I've watched it happen in Parliament, try to link migration to the housing and cost of living crisis when there is no evidence to suggest that that has what's caused increasing house prices and rents. That is what causes damage. And what happens is it divides our communities up. And the only people that benefits are the billionaires and big corporations who are the real culprits for our housing and cost of living crisis.
So where is Peter Dutton planning to cut out temporary residents to bring the NOM crashing down to the 160,000 mark? Well, he's already planning to axe the 485 graduate visa so students won't get their promised time to work here after their courses, and this is a true victimisation style, he said in a SBS interview the other day. The coalition will also review a visa that allows international students to live, study and work in Australia after they have completed studies. He said the review would address the misuse of the visa as a way to gain access to the Australian labour market and as a pathway to permanent migration. I mean, really? The misuse of the visa to gain access to the Australian labour market and to gain permanent residency? The whole point of the 485 visa was to gain the Australian work experience for a year or two after students finish their courses. And for those with the skills we need, offer them a pathway to PR. This 485 to PR visa model has operated like this since 2008 when the Kevin Rudd Labor government introduced it. It was designed to attract more international students and allow them to gain permanent residency. To turn around and claim international students are misusing their visas is just another insult thrown at them. Peter Dutton can't undermine the working holiday program to reduce the NOM, for that is a a reciprocal agreement between countries. He can't put the brakes on New Zealanders rushing in because that is in the Trans-Tasman Travel Agreement. However, since around 670,000 New Zealanders live here and only about 70,000 Australians live in New Zealand, maybe it's time to revisit that agreement. He can't stop Australian citizens or permanent residents from coming in and out either. So now you know why students are being demonised. They are the proverbial sitting ducks who can't fight back.
To be continued, oh please, to be continued.
And all this stress of being the easy target is getting too much for them.
We can have this conversation around immigration without talking and demonizing immigrants for just being and existing. And I'd like us to use more humanizing language in our conversation. I don't know if anyone else on this panel has taught in a university. I've taught, I've coordinated a subject, I've sat down and seen the tears in international students' eyes, or even just domestic students really, who just have a visible difference and talk about how they feel so othered by the language and the conversations that do happen around immigration.
If Peter Dutton wins power, he plans to crash the Australian education export industry. It is estimated that Labor's cuts to international students has already robbed the budget of about $4 billion. If Dutton axes the 485 visa program, many international students will simply choose countries that allow them to gain local work experience, and then we'll be looking at a far worse scenario than the billions already lost. Australia has the choice of treating our migrants, both temporary and permanent, fairly and regaining our reputation, or we will simply end up in the Trumpland existence of dog eat dog. We can all do our part to make the country we want it to be and end this blame game merry-go-round. Next week we shall take a break from reporting on the politics of migration matters and wait till the dust settles after the election and see what's what. As always, take care out there and I'll see you next time, so bye for now.